Hi everybody. We're approaching the Easter season, and this video is going to be about the two Via Dolorosas, the traditional one where I am now, and probably the more historical Via Dolorosa. If you do a organized tour to Israel on a bus, no matter what your Christian denomination, you'll be taken here for the traditional Via Dolorosa. Just a minute, there's motorcycles. Believe it or not, people actually use this street here, you can see. So this is the traditional Via Dolorosa, and I am next to Station 1. Now, Station 1 is where Jesus is tried by Pilate. But actually, and you can tell the little statues tell the story. When you come here, you can see the Jesus held by the Roman soldiers being judged by Pilate. Station number 1. But here's the thing. Sorry. Let's tighten this up a little bit. Here's the thing, is that this Via Dolorosa has nothing to do with the time of Jesus, who was tried around the year 30 AD. The streets we see here are over Roman roads, paved by the Emperor Hadrian. Gotta love it. Paved by the Emperor Hadrian 100 years after the events with Jesus took place. So the question is asked, well, why is this identified as the Via Dolorosa? And the answer is the Crusaders. The Crusaders come and conquer Jerusalem in July 1099. And as their kingdom needs economic growth, they depend on pilgrimage. So they identified this school here. This wasn't a school back then. Back then there probably wasn't anything here. As where Pilate is trying Jesus, because just on the other side of the school is the Temple Mount. Now, that's a problem because Scripture tells us that Jesus wasn't tried on the Temple Mount. He was tried in the Praetorium. So a modern day explanation is that here was the Antonia fortress. But those of you who take the word of Scripture as true, and quite frankly, reading the book of Luke and John, there's a lot of factual information in there. He wasn't tried here. He was tried in the Praetorium, which was sort of the guard room of Herod's palace. Herod's palace wasn't here. So the traditional Via Dolorosa winds, I'm gonna just speed up here and wind through it. So why did the Crusaders do this way when some of them actually knew that and read the Bible that it wasn't here? And the answer is commerce. If we were here in a normal day, we would see lots of tourist shops here. They're all closed now because there's no incoming tourism. And the thing is that, let me flip my screen up here. The thing is that the Crusaders wanted economic growth for their kingdom, because if there's economic growth, there's taxes. So shops, just like today, policeman, I've got to get my map up. Shops, just like today, sprang up in this area. So you can see all these shops here. Now, when you come, before I speed it up, when you come here, you'll see this arch. And this is called the Ecce Homo Arch. But that arch was built by Hadrian. Guys, I hate to tell you this, that arch was built by Hadrian 100 years after Jesus. And the Romans completely changed the city, even giving it a new name, changing it, the name of the city, from Jerusalem to Aelia Capitolina, and changing the name of the Roman province from Judea to Palestina. So let's walk the Via Dolorosa. By the way, not all the Via Dolorosa is historically incorrect. The last 5 stations of the Via Dolorosa are in the church. Now, I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but that probably, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, is probably the place where Jesus is crucified and entombed on Friday, Good Friday. Those of you who want to go to the Garden Tomb, and I do suggest going there for my Protestant and evangelical clients, there's not one shred of archaeological evidence that that's the place. So when we get to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, I'll talk about that. What we're going to do now is walk back to Jaffa Gate, and we'll begin the real Via Dolorosa. Okay, so there's a guard here, and I'm just going to waltz in, go inside the church. Okay, so station 14 this is the edicule, and this is where Jesus was entombed. The structure we see is much later, from the 19th century, something like 1812 it was built, and it's just been recently renovated. Now inside marks, there's just 3 parts, sort of like the temple itself, and of course the Holy of Holies is, if you can kind of see it in the back there, is Jesus' tomb. It's just a marble slab that was left. You have to remember, all this was an abandoned quarry. And what I want to show you, though, is, I think, one of the most compelling reasons why I think this is the church of, why this is indeed the very place of Christ. We're entering now something called the Chapel of Nicodemus, and in there are, I'm going to illuminate it with my iPhone, are the remains of 1st century Jewish tombs. If I can get my iPhone going here. There we go. So inside are the remains of first century. I'm actually going here. I don't kill myself. Just you can get a look. These are first century Jewish tombs. So this indeed is an necropolis. Hi guys. Okay, so we're going to go up. Now this is the stairway to station 11 and 12. And I'm not going to bother this lady praying. And there's nobody here for those of you who have been here before. This is station 11. The station of the nails of the cross. And here, this is Golgotha. And what this lady's doing is touching the top of the rock here. The priest is asleep, and it's a good thing because he would be yelling at me. Now what's interesting is that this is station 12. This is Orthodox. And if you look at the line on the floor, I'm going to go from the Orthodox Church to the Catholic Church, and then Chapel. And then I'm going to go from the Catholic Chapel to the Orthodox Chapel. 11 different, 6 sects share the church. 2 have been kicked out. The Egyptian Copts and the Ethiopians are on the roof. And who really has a lot of pull here are the Orthodox. They have the place of Jesus' crucifixion, station 12. Station 13, the Stone of the Unction, venerated by Orthodox and Catholics. And of course back to the Edicula here. So this is the real Via Dolorosa, in my opinion. This is where Jesus is crucified and buried. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to the real station 1. Let's go. Okay, I'm having those of you who know me, I can't go too long without my coffee. So I've walked back from the original Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the original Via Dolorosa, which, by the way, Via Dolorosa means the way of suffering. And I'm just inside Jaffa Gate. And why am I inside Jaffa Gate? Because approximately here, and a little bit further on, I'm going to go outside in just a moment, is where Herod's palace was. Now, guys, when Herod dies, the Romans rule the province of Judea directly, and their governor will always be in hotspots. And Passover, the Jewish festival of Passover, celebrates freedom. It's from slavery to freedom. So the Romans were very, very wary about Jerusalem, because Jerusalem had a population back then of around 60 to 70,000 people. But during the Passover pilgrimage, remember Judaism 2,000 years ago was a religion of pilgrimage and temple worship. So most Jewish families went to Jerusalem, and Jerusalem would swell at least to 250,000 people, sometimes going up to 400,000. How many Romans were here to keep the peace? Around 1,200. So the Roman governor, a fellow by the name of Pontius Pilate, he's going to be very, very, very careful to stamp out any whiff of insurrection. So when Jesus comes to Jerusalem during Holy Week and enters on Palm Sunday as the king, as the Messiah, the Romans already know there's going to be trouble. Okay, so here I am at Jaffa Gate, and I want to point out this structure here. This big tower with the flags on top is called the Hypocus Tower, and it was built by King Herod. Those of you who have been here before, you see if you can make out the rocks there, are cut in what's called the Herodian boss. So the tower today is about 25 meters tall, about 80 feet tall. But in Herod's time, it was almost twice as tall, it's 140 some feet tall. And there were 3 of these towers. And the reason the towers are here is because just over where this police station is, the Turkish jail was called the Kishle. Today it's, of course, Israeli police. But if we walk down and you look down here, we see the beginning of, and that's ground level 2,000 years ago. This is where Herod had his palace. So Jesus is going to be tried, and we're going to walk a little bit on the main street. So I call this the real Via Dolorosa. And here I can talk to you now, but I'll put the mask down just for a bit. Even though we're more than half the population has been inoculated with the vaccinated, we still have to wear the masks in public, and I can be fined if I don't have my mask on. So we're walking in what's called the Armenian Quarter. Remember, Jerusalem has 4 quarters. As you enter the city from Jaffa Gate, you see the Armenian Quarter on the right, where we are now. Armenians called the Armenian Quarter because Armenia, the first country to convert to Christianity around 301 AD, they settle here, and they have a church here called the Church of St. James. James, of course, the brother of Jesus, and the first bishop of Jerusalem. He'll be martyred in the 5th century, and even though the rabbis were not particularly happy, the Gamaliel called him a just man. So we're going to make, where it says St. James Street, we're going to, so Jesus is going to be tried. Let me get this up here. Jesus is going to be tried in Herod's palace, and the Praetorium maybe is where I'm standing right now. So Jesus is going to be tried here, and then he's going to be taken to the place of execution. To be taken there, it's outside the city. He's got to go through something called the Ganath Gate. So we're going to follow more or less the way the real Via Dolorosa went. So let's go down this street here. Now remember, the streets are not the streets from the street way. The street plan is mainly Roman, and this was a city that was slowly rebuilt by the Roman Empire from the time of Hadrian around 135 AD, after Hadrian puts down the Second Jewish Revolt. And just go down. Notice we're walking downhill. We're walking east. And the Armenian Quarter, by the way, The Armenian Quarter, by the way, has about 1,100 people living in it. It's a very small quarter population-wise. Jewish quarter has around 5,000. The Christian quarter, 3,000. It's the number. Every time I always read something else, but my guess is about 3,000. The Muslim quarter, 30,000. Remember, the old city, number one, is very small. It's about 1 square kilometer. Mark Twain writes that you can walk around the old city in an hour. A good walker, that is. And we're going to keep on walking down. Now, once we pass Ararat Street, we're in the Jewish quarter. You can see Yeshivas Bilchis HaTorah, Birkat Torah, and we're gonna walk downhill, and you can see the population of mainly Sabbath observant Jews here in the old city. Young family. And then, so we're going to, and a hunting truck making all this noise. Now you'll notice there's no stations because oh boy, I'm gonna turn this off for a traffic jam of garbage trucks here. Okay, notice we're walking downhill and we're walking to a later street you see here, and it's great to see life here. This is called the Roman Cardo, but this is not from Jesus' time, so I'm not going to dwell on it, but rather I'm going to walk to something very important. We're now, notice, walking downhill under some sort of structure, and if you do a tour, you will stop here and look at this map called the Medeva Map. But this is a map of Jerusalem from around the latter half of the 6th century AD. So this doesn't interest us in the historical Jesus. What does interest us, and we again get to this, all the ruins we're seeing. Now notice we're at street level from around 300 AD, and look at street level today up there. This is still not street level from Jesus' time, and this will be made apparent. By the way, very nice mural here. This is something you also will see, but this mural from depicting a picture. Okay, I had my battery cut out on me. We're going to now go to one of the most important places in the real, we're in the Jewish quarter around the Cardo, which means main or South Roman Street. But this Cardo that we're on now is paved at the beginning of, first century, 2nd century AD. So well after Jesus' time. But thanks to archaeology, we know a very important place, and that is what's called the Geneth or the Ginat Gate, the Garden Gate. Let's go. So I'm going to get my bag here, and we're going to continue walking, and you can see there are a few shops, but almost all the tourist shops are closed now. This would just be full of tourists. One good thing, one thing I like about Israel is that there's what to buy here. There's really nice shops here, and you can take a look at stuff to buy. And here the shopkeepers are more or less reputable, okay? More than less, I'd say. So we're going to, now what I want you to notice is this beige line in the floor. There's a beige line, and if we look down here, it's kind of hard to see, but we see, really you can't see it here. Let's go to the other one. We see another beige line, and this beige line is part of a wall. And let me see if I can, oh, now we can see. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see that on the bottom of the screen is an older wall. That's a wall from Hezekiah's time, about 600 and almost 700 years before the time of Jesus. And then there's a wall, there's a newer wall, and that's a Maccabean Wall. That's a Maccabean Wall. And why is this important? Because when we look at the floor, we see the salmon-colored stone, and then we see, which is 700 BC, and then we see the black stone, which was part of the wall in Jesus' time. Now, as we walk and we see this wall from the time of Jesus, we come to a corner. So the question is, what was here? And then the wall continues. And that's the wall right there. Okay, you see, this is the wall. Okay, but there's a corner here. So this is a gate to go outside the city. There's a tower here. And what I suggest doing is going down these steps. And if you're adventurous, you can even climb the ladder down there, but I don't know if they have it open. But guys, there's a gate here. Okay? There's a gate here. And you can leave the city. Okay? You can leave the city. This wall here is from the time of Jesus. And you can see there's a gate here, and there was a full. So it says, if you don't believe me, take a look at the sign. It says gateway. And there was a gate here to go outside the city. And as we walk, and it's really important to come here because to find remains from the time of Jesus is very, very difficult. It's so built up, and you can see how much destruction. I mean, look at the street level from the time of Jesus all the way down there, and then from just a couple hundred years later. Now, what's interesting is that if we walk this way, yeah, we're outside the city wall now. Okay, so 150 meters. Remember, all this wasn't here. So 150 meters that way is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So this is the real Via Dolorosa. My name is Jacob Forsell. I wish to wish everybody a happy Easter, a blessed Good Friday, and a happy Easter. And hopefully we'll see you soon here in Israel, in the Holy Land, in the not so distant future. Bye-bye now.